Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Bob Mendelsohn, and this is the Bob's Your Uncle podcast. Today we finally speak about pickleball. Yes, we've been promoting this since the beginning. I love this sport. I hope you will find it to be worthwhile. And today we're speaking with Seymour Rifkin. You won't believe all this man has done to make this sport so international and so worthwhile. Stay tuned. Thanks for joining me for this Bob's Your Uncle podcast, Season 1, Episode 11. Of note, the opinions are strictly my own and those of any of my guests. You can now find us and comment directly to us wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify, iTunes, Pandora, the list goes on. We have a lot of topics to discuss, and even so, on the Bob's Your Uncle podcast, you are part of the show. We do want to see and hear you, so send us a message on Facebook or Instagram. In the weeks to come, we'll speak about Major League Baseball groundskeeping, country music, Jewish DNA tests, and so much more. Let's see where the spirit leads us. Whether you're at home, online, on the road with me in your headset, at the gymnasium, or out for your evening constitutional, wherever you get your podcasts, that's where we will be. Thanks for being with us these 18 minutes. Historical marker of the week. On this date in history, 10th of May, 1869, in the United States, the first coast-to-coast railroad is completed. Yes, the Central Pacific and the Union Pacific Railroad systems were joined at Promontory Summit in Utah using a golden spike. This last spike is now housed in the Cantor Arts Museum at Stanford University. And also in 1994, Nelson Mandela became South Africa's first black president. Mandela's inauguration came after more than 300 years of white rule. Before becoming president, he was a pivotal figure in the fight against the racist apartheid regime and was incarcerated for 27 years, and that's the historical marker of the week. I first met Seymour Rifkin in 2017 in Australia, and his energy continues to emanate over the microphone and in everything he does. He and I grew up in similar worlds, albeit he in Chicago and I in Kansas City. And in this later stage of our lives, dare I say that, we both have found and been captivated by the sport of pickleball. Why is this sport featured next month on Sports Illustrated magazine and on the television show of Ellen so noticeable and so addicting? Shalom, Rif. I am so grateful to you for all you do for our sport. Last year, you did something no 70-year-old should do, and that's riding a push bike across the United States from California to Florida. Why did you do that?
Bob, as you probably know, I'm the founder and president of the Pickleball Hall of Fame. And, one of the objectives that I had prior to me leaving and passing the torch was to see if we could get an actual brick and mortar true Hall of Fame building to honor those that have been inducted, enshrine them forever, have a place where people could go and actually see videos, footage, memorabilia, the paddles they use, things of that every sports Hall of Fame has. And we developed a partnership with a new organization that was building 33 courts in Austin, Texas, called the Pickle Ranch. Through that partnership and through some of the work that we've done with our Pickleball Hall of Fame championships We raise enough funds for the building itself, but not for the interior. One of the harebrained ideas I had was, why don't I ride my bike across the United States and do two things, spread the pickleball love and reach out to media outlets along the way and try to grow pickleball in small town USA. And at the same time, hopefully gather enough media attention where they would contribute to the Pickleball Hall of Fame. Happy that I did finish the ride. We raised over $65,000. So it was successful. And it also gave me an opportunity to bond with my wife, because she's the one that drove the RV while I rode my bike. And she supported me, took care of me. And so that was great.
How did you get into this pickleball craze anyway? When was that?
So Bob, I've heard about pickleball for probably 25 years. I have a number of coaching colleagues. When they retired, they retired to the Villages in Florida. The Villages started out as just a 55 plus community, but quickly grew very, very fast because they built all these great sport amenities first to attract a lot of older retired athletes from all different sports, and pickleball happened to be one of those early sports. So in the Villages, they actually ran the first national pickleball tournament back in early 2003, 4, something like that. I can't remember the exact date. They currently have over 200 pickleball courts and 30,000 players. So the largest congregation of pickleball players is in the Villages. And so my friends have been telling me about this game for a long time, but I've always been so busy. But finally, around 2014, I think, we played some golf, we played some tennis, and then finally they said, okay, now we're going to go play pickleball. I said, okay. 10 minutes on a pickleball court, my whole life turned upside down. So that's how I got introduced.
That's a common testimony, isn't it?
It is.
The 10-minute rule. What was your career before you said you retired?
Yeah, so I owned an advertising and marketing firm for about 25 years. Prior to that, I in my youth I was involved in a sport called gymnastics, and that was my first true love. I learned so much about life in general beyond sports through that.
Do you see an end to the growth of pickleball?
No, I don't. Bob, to be honest with you, when I first got introduced to the game, back then it was really, in my view, a backyard game. That pickleball will be the most popular sport in the world, not just in the United States, but it's going to be the most popular sport in the world because it hits every single demographic, right? Whether you're a child, you can play pickleball and very quickly, the kids can start hitting the ball back and forth, and we're close together. And so you can talk and have fun, and they meet with success. And so they enjoy it. And obviously the initial growth of the game was with the seniors. And so the seniors obviously love it because, it gets them off the couch and it gets them away from the computer or the TV, and they're meeting new people, they're getting exercise, and oh yeah, it's fun too.
Grandparents can play with grandkids.
Oh, absolutely. A story that I tell all the time at the workshops that I do for IPTPA is, one of the greatest joys I have had is around 4 years ago, I was in Surprise, Arizona, and I saw 4 generations of Hackenbergs. And if you don't know who the Hackenbergs are, Yvonne and Jim Hackenberg are both in the Pickleball Hall of Fame, husband and wife. But Yvonne, mother, who was about 90 or 91 at the time, and Yvonne, who was around 70, and her daughter, and then her granddaughter were all playing pickleball on the court, laughing, having a great time. What sport can you do that with, right? Where all of them are playing kind of competitively and laughing and just bonding.
Is it played everywhere in the world?
It's pretty close. There's hardly a country now if they're not playing, they're certainly looking into wanting to play. One of the problems I'd say is still, getting equipment to a lot of the, far-reaching, places in Africa and things like that. But I mean, over the last 3 years in particular, the amount of growth internationally and then the amount of new countries has been astounding.
What worries or trouble spots do you have or see about the sport?
Like most young sports, that begin to get popular, There's growing pains, and we're certainly experiencing a lot of growing pains, and there's some frustration within the pickleball community in a lot of different areas, and I think all of that will work its way through. What I'm really concerned about, Bob, is that almost everybody I've ever met and talked to or experienced pickleball, when you ask them what they love about it, one of the top things that they'll say, regardless of skill level, is what a warm and inviting community it is. How it's almost like, an extended family. As our sport has grown and as money has become more available, and now we have actual pros with 2 different tours, some of that money has changed things, and there's got to be a balance to that. And so, when I go to, some of the just recreational courts, and I see that, there's people that are at the 4 or 5 level, and they want to push and become a pro, and it's all about winning, and it's all about some of that joy has kind of left, some of that welcoming and working with lower level players where you really kind of pay it forward, which has kind of been part of our culture for years. So that is very concerning to me, because I think that's one of the most attractive things about pickleball.
Let me ask Riff, besides pickleball, what would you like to make happen in your life in the next decade?
Bob, everything about me at this stage in my life revolves around pickleball. That helps to bridge the gap between people of all races, religions, political differences, etc. But, recently I just came back from Israel, and I know you'll appreciate this. And I introduced pickleball in Israel about 5 years ago. They now have a rabbi, a priest, some Muslims all playing pickleball together. And we're actually doing a documentary on it. And the documentary features, a number of these key people, and how, thousands of years have of let's just say hatred among certain people, right? And so here they are on the pickleball court now, playing, laughing, communicating, and bridging the differences. And so, you're involved right now with, one of the biggest threats that we've had in my lifetime that could turn into a major, third World War III, right? And, I'm not saying pickleball is the answer, but, what I can say is, I've been a sportsman my whole life. I've been a visionary and marketer my whole life. And so, I see pickleball, and I love the game as a sport, but I also see, some of the qualities that it can bring and the joy that it brings to almost everybody that ever plays the game.
Look, I even played here in Poland last week.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
And
That's great.
we were all in Warsaw, and we all drove about 40 minutes away to a local high school or university or whatever it was, campus,
Right.
and played there, and then went all back to Warsaw. It was fascinating. I was reminded, let's see, a priest, a rabbi, and an imam went into a pickleball court. Okay, we'll get to it. Anything else you want to tell the people of the Bob's Your Uncle podcast?
Well, I just encourage everybody to, if you haven't tried pickleball yet, look into pickleball. You could Google pickleball. You'll find, a ton of matches where you'll get an idea of what it looks like. But, anything you look at online doesn't really show the speed, the athleticism, and the agility at the highest level, and the fun that you can get regardless of what level that you may have be entering the sport at. The one thing that I find is, one of my really big joys, Bob, is when, a senior comes around and says, "Hey, I've heard about this pickleball, but, I'm not an athlete. I've never done anything. I'm an artist. I'm a musician. I've kind of shied away from anything sports." And, I introduced them to pickleball, and they give me a call a month later and they say, "I'm addicted to pickleball. I love this. I never thought I could do anything like this, and I'm having so much fun."
That's so great. Thanks, Riff. I appreciate you.
My pleasure.
And I wish God's best to you.
Likewise, ditto. And I'm doing my little part just with our pickleball community, and you're doing a much bigger part. trying to help out, all the people that have been suffering through Ukraine and are coming over to Poland to start a new life. And so the voluntary efforts that you're doing is absolutely incredible. So thank you, and God bless you as well, Bob.
High five to each other. All right, my friend.
All right, buddy.
All
Thank
the best.
you.
See ya.
Same, likewise. Bye-bye.
Amanda McInnes is both my travel agent and the sponsor of this podcast. People are always concerned, can I get a deal? Is there such a thing as a financial travel deal anymore? And how do you recognize it?
So I think with any deal per se, a lot of the time what the airline or the supplier is doing by giving you that deal is ensuring that you're booking early and they're getting an indication of what their occupancy is going to be like. So the further out that you book, usually the pricing is going to be a little bit better. Now, obviously with that comes its own risk, because if you book further out, a lot of unforeseen things can happen in that period of time. But especially domestically in Australia, I think Virgin just launched a sale to Sydney. Fares were $65 one way from multiple destinations. I think with accommodation as well, again, it's worth having an agent who might have a large amount of contracts per se. So working with an agent like myself under the Flight Centre umbrella, we've got quite a large company globally, which allows the contracts to be negotiated. So you might find secret kind of hidden deals in there if you work with a specific agent as well.
How do people reach you?
Alrighty, so the best way to reach me is via email, amanda.mckinnis@travelpartners.com.au.
All right, well, have a blessed day. Thanks so much.
You as well, stay safe. Bye.
Every week we read from the #1 bestseller of nonfiction of all time, the Bible. And this week is no different. Today we read from the book of Exodus, chapter 20. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be prolonged in the land which the Lord your God gives you. Do you have a comment or question? Do you agree with us? Hit us up on bobmendo@aol.com or on Twitter or Instagram, and we'll read your views next week. Don't forget to post a review on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you're listening, and share our podcast with your mates, your friends, your enemies. Thanks for helping us get known out there. And please follow or subscribe to the podcast, hit like, help us get all the good speak we can get. And don't forget to book all your travel needs with Amanda McInnes at travelpartners.com.au. She knows her stuff. And we'll talk to you next week. Until then, from me, Bob Mendelsohn, when things seem bleak or uncertain, look up to God. He's in his heaven, and Bob's your uncle. Shalom for now.